Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join us today. My name is Glenn DeRoy. I'm the CEO of Tantus Solutions Group, and we'll be hosting this afternoon's webinar. Today is actually the first in a series of 4 sessions that we have planned over the next couple of months. Today's topic is going to be IT health checks. We'll be following that with IT strategic planning, IT business case development, and finally, IT budgeting. Our goal through these sessions is to give you a sense of what each of these practices are, how they fit together, and how they can be used in your organization, either separately or together as a group. Today I'm joined by Rick Farrell, who's a Vice President with Tantus Solutions. Rick is a senior technology professional consultant with over 30 years of systems consulting experience, working across a number of organizations in various capacities. So he's well positioned to talk to us today about IT health checks and his experience in that field. So thanks for joining us today, Rick.
Thank you, Glenn.
So, Rick, we hear a lot about IT strategic planning in our field, but IT health checks might be a bit of a sort of a new name or new label. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what the focus of an IT health check is and how it might be different than a more fulsome IT strategic planning process.
Right. Well, Glenn, the best way I could really contrast the two would be to say that IT strategic planning really looks at the future, where you want to get to, where you want to be, typically in sort of a 3 to 5 year time frame. The IT health check, on the other hand, focuses on your current IT infrastructure and your assets.
Okay, so really kind of near-term versus longer-term planning is at the heart of the difference.
That's right.
Okay, and Rick, why is it important for a municipality to even undertake an IT health check? What would the benefits be to an organization?
Well, there's numerous benefits to undergoing the IT health check, but I think what I could try to do here is try to focus on the top 5.
Okay.
So the first one, it identifies any areas of risk within your current IT environment, infrastructure, that could impact your service delivery. So it's really focused on the business, looking at what they're attempting to deliver and making sure that your current infrastructure supports it effectively. The second one, it allows your municipality to prioritize areas requiring attention based on your service delivery requirements. So again, looking at business requirements, and where in the short term the business plans are going with some of the delivery. It provides input into your budgeting and informs your decision-making process. So you can take a look at where your weaknesses might be, and alternately where your strengths might be, and budget accordingly in the shorter term to maintain your assets in a method that they need to be maintained. Number 4, it allows the municipality to assess their IT position against the peer municipalities. So what we do is we take a look at what other municipalities of approximately the same size, same residency are doing, and where you compare to them and how well your assets are being managed compared to your peers.
Okay.
If the IT health check is performed on a regular basis, it provides your council and administration team with an IT progress report. So if you do it year after year, or perhaps every budget cycle, it lets you know what you've accomplished, where you are. Is your infrastructure being maintained in a manner that is going to allow you to roll forward with whatever service delivery options you're looking at.
Right, okay. Yeah, those are great points, Rick. And one thing I heard you say that resonates is, and I sort of summarized it as sustainment. A lot of organizations are under pressure to look at the future, plan for future investment, future innovations, but sustainment of your current IT investment is also very critical, and we've seen examples where inattention to that can bring significant risk to an organization. So certainly it sounds like the IT health check can help address that, identify areas of risk to an organization, and point to areas that may require some investment.
That's correct, yeah.
So now that we've heard a little bit about sort of how important an IT health check is, Rick, can you talk a little bit about the detail about what's involved in actually conducting or executing an IT health check?
Right, so Glenn, I guess you could say that your IT health check is like your yearly physical, except that it examines the health of your municipal IT investment. So specifically, it focuses on 7 key investment areas. Network assets. So it does look at things like internal, external, network, your wireless, and any other network components and capabilities you have within your organization. It looks at your infrastructure assets. So current capacity, the average age of your assets. Do you have an evergreening strategy? Do you have disaster recovery strategies? All those types of things are all included in there to ensure that your current infrastructure asset is well maintained and well understood. It looks at applications. So it looks at the coverage of your critical business processes by your applications. So perhaps permitting, assessment, taxation, those types of things. Is it correctly covering the business processes that are key to your particular municipality?
Right.
It looks at security. So vulnerability to outside attack, and more importantly, in a lot of cases too, also to inside attack. So is everything being done correctly? Are things being maintained correctly? Are user IDs being disconnected in a correct process when somebody leaves the organization? Those types of things. It looks at support processes. So your maintenance processes, your patches, your release management. Are all those things in place? Is everybody working from the same song sheet? Are you all delivering the services in the same way to your council and to your administration? It looks at resourcing. So what is your capacity in your particular IT shop? What's your expertise? What does your org structure look like? And is it set up in a best practices type of way? So that's more key in your first IT health check, I think, to get into that. But as you go forward, it does help to show how your organizational structure is growing also. And then governance, your governance. So your stakeholder involvement. Do you do business cases? And what approach do you use to doing those business cases? Even for your hardware and infrastructure, are there business cases done there? Are they tied back to your business deliverables that you're looking at providing in the go forward and currently?
Right. Yeah, your point about security is interesting, Rick. I mean, a lot of awareness about security and vulnerabilities these days. What's I think key for a lot of organizations is to assess the risk that they might be under. There's pretty significant liabilities that we read about. A number of organizations that have suffered security gaps, if you will. So that's certainly one area that's important.
And it does tie into a number of different places in there also. So even things like your patch processes and that kind of stuff. So Microsoft, for instance, on a regular basis puts out patches to ensure that you've got all your security holes patched up. So if you haven't got a valid process in place or a manageable process to get that stuff done in a timely manner, that could also open you to some security vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that's overall, there's a lot of ground that gets covered in the IT health check, Rick. So can you talk a little bit about approach or tools that you use to ensure that you're engaging an organization and getting the right input into that process?
Yeah, I sure can, Glenn. We use an 8-step approach to conducting an IT health check. So we started off with a kickoff meeting with the key stakeholders. So we want to make sure that everybody that's going to be involved understands where we're going, what the objectives are, and what the final deliverable will be.
Right.
Then we review your business service delivery priorities. So we take a look at all of the priorities within the municipality, just so we have a framework that we can work from when we do our health check. Okay. We review any available IT asset documentation. So any disaster recovery plans, business continuity plans, service level agreements that you might have with any third-party vendors, those types of things. And then we tailor our assessment tools for that particular municipality. So we look at your key focus and make sure that the assessment tools are focused in that area so that it provides value to both the IT and business community. Okay. Then we do the data collection, and we can do a number of different things there. We do a series of online surveys, interviews. In some cases, we might actually get into some focus groups if there's some complicated type issues that we need to deal with, or complicated service delivery initiatives that are underway. We may need to bring together a number of people just to have a focus group on that. Okay. And through that, we identify areas of both strength and weaknesses in your current IT environment. So the health check's not only about weaknesses, it's about strengths also, and making sure that it's it's highlighted what those strengths are.
Okay.
And that helps in your budgeting process also, so that you don't spend money on things that you already have a very large strength in, and try to focus on the weaknesses.
Great point.
Then we do an analysis of the information we've collected, and we do a formulation of findings. And then we review the findings with the municipality. And then finally, we produce a IT health check dashboard and a health check report. And I think the key deliverable out of there is actually the health check dashboard. It provides you with a very good high-level view of where you sit and within each one of the different architecture structures.
Okay. So you've kind of touched on the dashboard, Rick. So talk a little bit more about the output. So that you mentioned the health check report as well. So how do you take all that input and actually turn it into something that's going to be useful for the organization as the basis for decision making, et cetera, going forward?
Well, the process begins with the analysis of the information that has been collected and the synthesis of that information into key findings for the municipality. These findings are reviewed, like I said, with the municipality and refined as required. So we make sure that the interpretation is the same across the different parts within the municipality. We then produce the report and the dashboard that are structured again to assist the municipality in placing priorities on areas that need attention, and to maintain or to frame meaningful discussions about the state of the municipality's information technology assets.
Okay. Yeah, and you've mentioned the dashboard a couple of times now, Rick, so that sounds like a particularly useful tool, not only in terms of a visual summary of the IT health check, but also as a tool that highlights, high priority areas requiring attention. Good tool to use for monitoring progress. You mentioned that this is not a one-time thing; it should be an ongoing thing. So, it can be used to monitor progress, and also a key tool for communication and engagement with key stakeholders. Your point about not only highlighting strengths and weaknesses, but so it's a great tool to monitor your organization over a period of time as well.
That's right, and it's in a format that people are used to seeing. So people are used to seeing financial dashboards, for instance, those types of things. So it gives you a very high level, at a glance look at where you're situated.
Great. Okay. So, Rick, in your experience, what would be some tips to keep in mind when you're approaching an IT health check?
Well, there's a couple of expert tips that I'd like to highlight. Okay. The first tip, and this is really key, would be to approach your IT health check as a business-driven initiative. The IT health check is like performing an audit, and during that process, interviews with both key business and IT stakeholders is key to ensuring that all the questions regarding the technology that supports the business are addressed.
Right.
And again, I think we need to stress that it really needs to be business-driven. You really need to understand what those key initiatives are that the business is trying to get to and where they feel they are today, so you can compare your infrastructure, your policies, procedures to where you need to be.
Right.
And the second tip would be to conduct an IT health check prior to any strategic planning initiatives that the municipality is going to undertake. We've seen this in a couple of instances where the municipality was very certain where they were in their infrastructure, with their infrastructure assets. Yeah. And as they went into that strategic planning process, they realized that there was a number of things that were either had more strength to them than they thought, or were weaker than they thought. Yeah. So if you have that starting point, that common baseline, then it does make it easier for you as you move forward in that strategic planning process.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see, based on what you've shared with us today, Rick, the value in performing an IT health check, the focus on sustainment. Your comment just a few moments ago about making sure that the business has the input. What resonates with me when you said that is there's obviously in our industry there's a lot of best practices we hear about, we get bombarded with. best in class and best of breed and everything
That's
else.
right.
But at the end of the day, every organization is different. The degree to which they need to be sort of on that scale of best in class is gonna be different. It's based on risk. It's based on investment capacity. All those things. So, understanding the business and what the business needs ultimately is sort of that key link.
That's right.
Yeah.
And based on the size of the municipality, there will also be different focus also. Some of the bigger municipalities may be very much focused on online delivery of services,
Yeah.
or in some of the smaller communities that may not be their focus. It may be more focused around something else related to the community, maybe something in their local tri-leisure center or those types of things that they're more concerned with in their IT infrastructure.
Yeah, no, great point. Well, Rick, you provided us with a bunch of valuable information today. Thank you for joining us, and thanks everybody for watching.